Shubhavilas Prabhuji. So I'd like Haribola Prabhuji to speak a few words about him, and then we can start the program.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here in Iskcon Brampton. And it gives me absolute pleasure and joy to introduce the speaker for today, His Grace Shubhavilas Prabhu. I would just like to state that Shubhavilas Prabhu is coming to Canada for the first time. And not only that, this is his first public address in Canada. So it just shows how special Iskcon Brampton is. And again, thank you so much for hosting and for coming in these numbers. And Krishna Karuna Prabhu, very grateful for you, to you for all this effort that you've done. So a little bit about Shubhavilas Prabhu. I'll give a quick overview. So Dr. Shubhavilas is a lifestyle coach, storyteller, and author. He studied patent law after completing his engineering degree, but finally chose the path of a spiritual seeker. He holds a master's in psychology and a PhD in leadership from Valmiki Ramayana. Ramayana, the Game of Life, is his best-selling series. He also is the author of Open-Eyed Meditation, Mystic Tales for a Magical Life, and Perfect Love, 5.5 Ways to a Lasting Relationship. He has authored more than 50 thought-provoking books. I think this is outdated, but with 60 now. 60 thought-provoking books. The focus of his work is the application of spiritual wisdom to day-to-day life and addressing the needs of corporates and the youth through power-packed seminars. In his 11 years of monkhood associated with Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, Iskcon Chowpatty, Mumbai, he has served in various leadership roles in congregational development as well as management. He heads Iskcon Goa, where the congregation has been steadily growing under his leadership. He also heads Tulsi Books, a publishing house for spiritual books. He has delivered more than 7,000 talks, inspiring more than 600,000 people across 20 countries in the past 12 years. That is an accomplishment that we are proud of. He is a popular guest speaker at prestigious universities such as Stanford, Princeton, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT Boston, to name a few. Apart from his regular visits and talks within the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, and the Indian Institute of Management, IIM in India. He has also spoken at Intel, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Samsung at their headquarters in the United States of America. To know more about him, please visit shubhavilas.com. And with that, let's welcome His Grace Shubhavilas Prabhu with 3 times
Om Agyantimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Navishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Bhagavan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Radhe Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Very happy and grateful to be amidst all of you here today at Iskcon Brampton in Canada. Today I'm going to be speaking on a very interesting topic. It's called as Strength of Women Characters in the Ramayana. Can you adjust it?
Would you rather have wireless mic?
Yeah, wireless is okay.
Wireless is okay?
Yeah, it's
Yeah? Okay. Yeah.
So, I'll be speaking on this topic, strength of women characters in the Ramayana. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to be speaking on many of the women characters in the Ramayana, going a little deeper into the context of the Ramayana. I'm assuming that all of you all know the basic story of the Ramayana. Is there anyone here who doesn't know Ramayana story? Please put up your hands. Okay, all of you all know. So today is going to be like a little deep dive into the story of the Ramayana, and I'm going to give you all some really interesting ways of looking at the story of the Ramayana in ways probably you would have never seen. And some of these characters that we're going to be seeing are positive characters and some of them are negative characters. So some of the characters we're going to learn what to do and some of the characters we're going to learn what not to do. Both are important for us. And I think we'll just leave the mics. Leave the stands. We'll leave the stands. We'll just no, I'll manage all the stands. Keep the stands. So we'll begin with the three queens of Ayodhya. Dasharath Maharaj had three queens prominently: Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. Now I'm going to tell you all what these three queens represent. Most of us, we feel that the story of the Ramayana is something that kids need to hear. And we are very enthusiastically telling children the story of the Ramayana. Yeah. And as adults, you tend to feel that I already know the story. What's the big deal? Yeah. So today, I'm going to prove to all of you that you all don't know the Ramayana at all. And the depth that the Ramayana contains is so amazing. There is so many layers to the simple story of the Ramayana. There are so many deeper insights into the simple story that we all know of, which will help us understand the wisdom of Valmiki Rishi, the wisdom of the sages in putting such a complicated and such difficult concepts through simple stories. So now, if you just focus on the storyline, it's entertaining. But if you focus on the deeper insights, it is also enlightening. The three queens of Dasharath Maharaj represent three different mindsets. Kaikeyi represents the action-oriented mindset. She is known as Kriyamayi. Sumitra represents the emotion-oriented mindset. And Kaushalya represents the thought-oriented mindset. I'll explain what these three mindsets are. Kaikeyi, for her, others' actions are very important. she judges the intentions of others based on their actions. For example, when Dasharath Maharaj decided to coronate Ram as the king of Ayodhya, he did not call Bharat and he did not call Kaikeyi's father Ashwapati. Wrong action. And that wrong action made Kaikeyi judge his intentions. So for her, behavior of people is very important. If people behave well, she assumes they have good intentions also. And if people behave badly, she assumes they have bad intentions also. This is the first type of mindset, which is known as action-oriented mindset. Sumitra was completely different. She had an emotion-oriented mindset. What is the meaning of emotion-oriented mindset? For her, what others do doesn't matter. But what she feels matters. Wrong actions of others doesn't disturb her. But what she feels in her heart, that's what matters the most. For example, in the Ramayana, when Ram was leaving Ayodhya to go on exile to the forest, Ram went and spoke to everyone individually. He went and met Mother Kaushalya, he went and met Kaikeyi, he went and met Dasharath, he went and met so many of the personalities, one by one, seeking permission, seeking blessings. The only person Ram didn't meet at all was Sumitra. Now, ideally, Sumitra should have said, what is this? Injustice. How unfair. Why did he not meet me? This is politics. She could have said so many things, isn't it? She could have concluded so many things. But she didn't. For her, what she felt was important. She always felt that Ram loves her. Because whenever Ram interacted with her, he always made her feel special, made her feel loved. So for her, Ram's wrong action didn't matter at all. Her feelings for Ram mattered the most. And she decides everything based on not others' behaviors, but how she feels about it. The third person is Kaushalya. And her mindset is known as thought-oriented mindset. For her, others' behavior doesn't matter. For her, what she feels also doesn't matter. But what she thinks matters. For example, in the Ramayana, when Mother Kaushalya got married to Dasharath Maharaj, she was the first queen. And Dasharath naturally gave her attention and love and affection. But eventually Dasharath got married to Kaikeyi. And after he got married to Kaikeyi, Kaikeyi got more prominence. And Dasharath began to neglect Kaushalya. Now Kaushalya was initially feeling very disturbed because she was not getting attention. She was not getting any love from her husband. But then she decided to think differently. She decided, why should I focus on this? Let me focus my thoughts on something higher. And she started a Gurukul where she had 10,000 students studying in the Gurukul, and she completely sponsored the education, the boarding, the lodging of these 10,000 students. And she completely changed her focus from what she was concerned and worried about to something much higher. This is a thought-oriented person. This is how thought-oriented people work. For success in business, you need a Kaikeyi-like mindset. For success in relationships, you need a Sumitra-like mindset. And when you have problems in both, you need a Kaushalya-like mindset. Kaikeyi is like a road roller. When a road roller moves, everything under it gets crushed. The road roller doesn't see if an ant is there or human being is there. Whoever is there, it rolls over it. So Kaikeyi-like mindset is like a road roller. For her, getting results is important. So when you want success in business, you have to be like that. You have to really move on. You have to really be in action. That's when you can get any kind of success. If you keep thinking what that person will think, what this person will think, you can't do anything. You have to sit at home only. But if you want success in relationships, Kaikeyi-like mindset doesn't work. In Kaikeyi-like mindset, if you try developing a good relationship, you will make a mess out of it. For a relationship to be successful, you will be like Sumitra. Sumitra is like an ant. You've seen ants, if they move, you put a finger in front of the ant, what they'll do? They'll move around it. You put a finger there, it'll move around it. You put a finger there, it'll move around it. The ant will find another way to go ahead. It'll never get stuck. It'll never destroy the other person. It'll just move on. It'll adjust and go on. People like Sumitra are very successful in relationships because they know the art of adjusting. If you don't know the art of adjusting, you cannot be successful in relationships. Just like, if you are on a highway, all of us took this long highway, So if you are driving on this highway and you are on the right path, you are on the right road, and in front of you a huge truck comes from the wrong side, what will you do? You will obviously adjust and go ahead, isn't it? What if after some time a second big truck comes? What will you do? Again you will adjust and go. What if a third big truck comes? What will you do? Again you will adjust and go. What if a 20th truck comes? What will you do? Finally you will say, come on, how many times I have to adjust? Let that fellow adjust now. And you go straight. And you bang on the truck. And you land up with your hands and legs fractured in the hospital. And somebody comes and asks you, what happened? And that time you can't say, I was right, you were wrong. When you are adjusting to the traffic, when there is heavy traffic on the road, the question that you should ask is, not whose mistake it is, the question you should ask is, whose life it is. If you have to deal with the traffic on the road, the question should not be whose mistake it is, the question should be whose life it is. If you value your life, and you value your relationships, in the traffic on the road of relationships also, there might be situations where somebody is coming on the wrong side. You cannot ask this question, whose mistake it is. The question you should be asking is, whose life it is. If you value your life, and if you value the relationships, learn to adjust. And that's what Sumitra teaches us. Learn to adjust and go ahead in life. And when you have problems in both, when you have problems in business, and when you have problems in relationships, that's when you have to take a higher approach, which is what Kaushalya teaches us. The Kaushalya mindset is like that of an eagle. When an eagle is flying, sometimes a group of crows come and attack the eagle. You have seen the size of crows. The crows are so small, and the eagle is so massive in size, right? Now, what can crows do to an eagle? Is there any logic behind crows attacking an eagle? And that too ganging up, 4-5 of them ganging up to attack an eagle. One smash, the eagle can kill a crow, isn't it? But when the crows attack the eagle never attacks back. You know what the eagle does? It flies higher. It flies so high that the crows can't reach only that high. This is the way Kaushalya-like people deal with problems in life. They look at the problem only from a higher perspective. So when you start looking at the problem from a higher perspective, the problems really don't affect you. They don't disturb you so much. A lot of us, we try to jump into the negativity and try to solve it. It's like jumping into quicksand and trying to solve it. You can never solve it. It will only get more messy. It will only get more complicated. Rather, you go higher and look at the problem from a higher perspective. And from a higher perspective, the problem appears completely trivial. It's not really worth putting your energy and focus on. And then you can, with the higher perspective, you can look at the problem and you can deal with the problem in a much different framework. These three women represent three different mindsets. It is not that one of the three mindsets is important, all three mindsets are important. That's why Dasharatha married all three queens. So now you look at this story of Ramayana from another point of view, this is something else only going on, isn't it? So all the three queens are important at different junctures in your life. You need to call a Kaushalya at a particular situation in your life. You need to call a Kaikeyi in a particular situation in your life. You need to call a Sumitra in a particular situation in your life. And these three queens together make life complete. In the Ramayana, there is a very interesting woman who brings a complete twist to the Ramayana. In fact, the Ramayana is called by many acharyas as Stri Prasanga. Why is it called Stri Prasanga? It is called Stri Prasanga because the most important twists in the Ramayana happen because of women. Manthara comes in first, brings one twist. Then Shurpanakha comes second, she brings another twist. And then eventually, Mandodari, she kind of takes the third twist in the Ramayana. So basically, in the Ramayana, we find that this particular woman, Manthara, plays a very prominent role in turning the story of the Ramayana in a totally different direction. So let's analyze a little bit of Manthara's character and personality so that we understand what this woman represents and what she warns us against. So in the Ramayana, there are two names, Manthara and Sumanthara. Both are advisors. The word Manthara comes from the word Manthan. Manthan means churning. So people like Manthara are experts in churning. What do they churn? They churn information. They churn knowledge. They churn a lot of data and they come up with some ideas. These are called advisors typically, And the difference between Manthara and Sumanthara is the word Su. The word Su means good. Sumanthara means someone who churns to bring out good advice. And Manthara churns and she brings out bad advice. So every time Manthara gives an advice, it divides people. And every time Sumanthara gives an advice, it unites people. Manthara, she represents those people who have great intelligence, but they use their intelligence for the wrong purpose. I'm sure all of you have come across very intelligent people in your life, but they use their intelligence to churn out all the gossip. This person said this, this person said this, this person said this, bring it all together, and this means this. Somebody is wondering, how did they conclude? Well, they're churning 3 different stories and creating a completely parallel narrative to it. Yeah. It's a use of intelligence, but it's actually a misuse of intelligence. The personalities like Manthara, they wait for opportunities where people are at their weakest. And then they go and give advice. They give advice to weak people to weaken them further. Just like nowadays, if you have, friends who are non-devotees, and you go and tell them you have a problem, what do they tell you to deal with the problem? Say, forget it, let's go and drink. This fellow already fallen, and this fellow is taking him further down, basically. So Manthara-like people, they take you further down from where you are already existing. Manthara came along with Kaikeyi. So just to give you a little background of Kaikeyi's story so that you know when Manthara came in. Kaikeyi's father Ashwapati, he had a very powerful boon given to him by a sage. So one day Ashwapati was sitting and eating food and his wife was sitting next to him, and Ashwapati saw 2 ants talking to each other. So Ashwapati had this boon that he can understand the language of animals. And he saw these 2 ants talking to each other and he felt it was really funny. I mean, if you observe animals talking to each other as human beings, it will always seem funny only, right? Like 2 ants were talking to each other once and there was an elephant coming, towards them. So one ant told the other ant, let's beat up this fellow. The other ant tells him, no, let it be. We are 2, he's alone. So when you hear animals speak, it's always going to be funny in your context, isn't it? So Ashwapati he laughed loudly when he heard these 2 ants converse. His wife, she became suspicious. He said, why are you laughing? She thought he's remembering some other woman in some joke somebody said and he's laughing. She said, why are you laughing? He told her, These two ants were talking. I heard their conversation. I felt it is funny. I'm laughing. She said, what were they talking? He said, see, I can't tell you that. Because according to the moon, if I share what I hear, I will die. She said, no problem, you die, but tell me and die. Ashwapati realized, I'm living with a very dangerous person. This person is really going to put me in trouble someday. And that day, Ashwapati got separated from his wife. So Kaikeyi was brought up by Manthara, practically. And for a child who is not with her mother through the childhood, basically, it's a very traumatic experience. It's not an easy experience. And small children, they develop a way to deal with their problems and insecurities and issues in their own ways. And as you grow up as an adult, as you grow up into adulthood, whenever you come across problems in life, you deal with the problems in the exact same way that you have been dealing as a child. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking. This is a very deeply psychological concept. Practically, the way we deal with trauma, the way we deal with problems and calamities as an adult is exactly the way we have dealt with this as a child. So we develop certain mechanisms which are known as defense mechanisms as a child. And those defense mechanisms become our system all through our life. So Kaikeyi, because she grew up in an atmosphere of insecurity, naturally Manthara was her like a foster mother, like that, maid basically. So now when Kaikeyi was, this whole coronation thing was going on, Manthara, she simply triggered the insecurities of Kaikeyi. Simply by triggering the insecurities of Kaikeyi, she made Kaikeyi behave like a kid. And I'm going to tell you how she triggered the insecurities of Kaikeyi, which will tell you how intelligent Manthara is and how smart she is in manipulating. She told Kaikeyi that you should listen to me because you are in trouble in 3 ways. There are 3 big problems in your life right now. The first problem is going to affect your life. The second problem is going to affect your son's life. The third problem is going to affect your father's life. For a woman, these 3 are the weak points. Self-respect, child and father. So if you trigger these 3 insecurities of a woman, they behave only differently. Manthara exactly understood what to trigger. And she spoke 3 things which actually made Kaikeyi completely mad. The first thing she said, your father Ashwapati is a great king. But do you know why Dasharath Maharaj had not called your father for the coronation ceremony of Ram? Kaikeyi, she had no idea. She said, maybe it is far. Manthara said, no. There is a political reason why Dasharath Maharaj did not call Ashwapati, your father. He said, she tells him, Ashwapati is a king of Kaikeyi Desh. Today is Afghanistan. And Janak Maharaj, Sita's father, is a king of Mithila, in today's Nepal. So Ashwapati and Janak are great enemies to each other. They are like bitter enemies. So now Ashwapati and Janak were bitter enemies. They are like practically want to take each other's life. And in between is Dasharath. Dasharath is related to Ashwapati, son-in-law. Dasharath is related to Janak Maharaj, best friend. Because Dasharath is standing in between, both of them are not fighting with each other. Your father's life is safe. But the day Dasharath steps down and Ram becomes a king, Ram is related to Janak, but he is not related to your father. Janak will attack your kingdom and you finish off your father. That made Kaikeyi really insecure and concerned about her father's life. And then she tells her that, do you know what will happen to Bharat after Ram becomes a king? So she says, for Ram, the only competition is Bharat. Because Lakshman is practically a servant. He doesn't have a mouth only. Whatever Ram says, he will do. So, and Lakshmana is not a competition to Ram at all. And Shatrugna is a non-entity. He doesn't exist only. So the only person who is good enough as a competitor to Ram is Bharat. If Ram becomes a king, the first thing Ram will do, he will hunt down Bharat. He will make sure that Bharat is eliminated, so that all competition is eliminated. So my advice to you is tell Bharat not to come to Ayodhya only. Tell him to remain there in Kaikeyi. Because the moment he comes here, Ram and Lakshmana will hunt him down. And imagine, she's just making up so many things just to trigger the insecurity of Kaikeyi. So now Kaikeyi becomes worried about her son's safety. And then she says the third thing, which is like the last straw on the camel's back. She says, all these years, Dasharath considered you to be his favorite wife. And because you were the favorite wife of Dasharath, you did whatever you want. You insulted all of them, Kaikeyi, Kaushalya and Sumitra, so much. And everything used to happen according to your will. But the moment Kaushalya becomes the queen mother, Ram becomes the king, you will have no say. And for you, even to give charity, you will have to ask Kaushalya permission. You have to beg from Kaushalya money so that you can give charity. So what is going to happen to your self-respect? Are you ready for this? Mantra asks her. And that's when Kaikeyi realizes that she is in big trouble now, if Ram becomes a king. Now imagine this. Kaushalya, when Kaikeyi hears this, she says, Mantra, what a brilliant person you are. So much ideas, so much wisdom you have. She says, practically every problem in Ayodhya, I think you have solution for it. She tells her, I submit to you. You tell me what I should do now. And Mantra tells her, many years back, Dasharath Maharaj, you saved Dasharath's life twice. There was a war in which Dasharath and Kaikeyi were participating against a demon named Shambharasura. And in that war, so Kaikeyi was Dasharath's chariot driver in that war. And during the phase of that war, Kaikeyi saved Dasharath's life twice. And one time, the chariot wheel of Dasharath was coming out of the chariot. And Kaikeyi actually bent down, put her finger between the wheels and held the chariot with her finger. And Dasharath, after she saved his life 2 times, he gave her 2 boons. She said, you ask for any 2 boons, I'll give you. Kaikeyi at that point in time, she had no desire, she had everything she wanted. She said, I don't want anything. Mantra tells her, remember that story. You asked for 2 boons. Now is the time to ask for the 2 boons. And then she tells her which 2 boons to ask. Send Ram to the forest for 14 years and make Bharat the king of Ayodhya. When she hears this, Kaikeyi says, brilliant! Your hunchback is not a hunchback. He is a box full of ideas. And she says, I am going to cover this hunchback with gold. And I am going to make you the queen of all hunchback women in Ayodhya. Now imagine, this is called Vikriti. This is called twisted intelligence, basically. So Mantra, she had solid intelligence, but all her intelligence was used to disunite people, to divide people. And she used to manipulate just so that she gets things the way she wants. And why did she do this whole drama? Simply because of one reason. Because if Kaikeyi is no more the queen mother, she is no more the favorite queen, Mantra will not be the favorite maid. So if Kaikeyi becomes secondary, Mantra will also become secondary. That's the insecurity that triggered her to do all this. Now this is something that we can really understand how mantra-like intelligence functions. So from mantra, we learn how not to use intelligence. So in the Ramayana, we find this very interesting character. So when Mantra spoke those 3 things to Kaikeyi, it triggered her childhood insecurities. And then she started behaving like a child only, literally. So the way she behaved throughout the whole episode, Vashishta, the guru, was saying, you're like a possessed woman. You're talking nonsense. So that's what happens when your insecurities are triggered. You behave only very weirdly, basically. Now I'm going to tell you all two stories of Sita's life. And these two stories will teach us a very interesting way of looking at Mother Sita. Most of the times when we look at Mother Sita, we think that she's a helpless woman. We think that she doesn't have any prominent role in the Ramayana. But Janak Maharaj, when he hands over Sita to Ram, Janak Maharaj tells Ram, this is Dharmacharini Tava. He uses this word Dharmacharini. What is the meaning of the word Dharmacharini? The word Dharmacharini means she follows you. He's telling Ram, she will follow you as long as you are following the path of Dharma. The moment you deviate from the path of Dharma, she will correct you. So here are two stories from Sita's life that tell us about how Sita corrected Ram. And she stood up and she spoke when she found that Ram was doing something wrong. And I tell you these two stories which will help you understand the character of Sita in a very interesting way. So when Ram was leaving to the forest, at that point in time he comes to meet Mother Sita to tell her that he is going to the forest. So Ram, he tells Mother Sita that I have to go to the forest for 14 years. And he tells her, in these 14 years, I want you to take care of mother and father very nicely. I want you to, forgive Bharat for all his lapses, for all his mistakes, considering him to be a younger brother. And he says, I want you to focus on your spiritual journey. And he's giving so many instructions to Sita. Sita laughs and she tells him, why are you telling me all this? I'm coming with you. Ram says, no, you can't come with me. You have no idea how difficult forest life is. And the Ram begins to tell her all the difficulties of forest life. He tells, you think the forest is like a nice picnic? When you go to the forest and hear the roaring of lions, your heart will really stop beating. And when you're sleeping in the night, in the middle of the night, the sound of the waterfall is so deafening that you will not get sleep at all. And you think you're going to go and have a picnic in the lakes and rivers of the forest. And these lakes which are filled with lotuses, inside that there are so many crocodiles there. So Ram is like trying to scare Sita. Sita tells Ram, when I was a small girl, my mother called a lady astrologer. And this lady astrologer, when she saw my charts, she predicted at that point, when I was a small girl, that this girl will go to the forest 2 times in her life. So Sita says, I don't know about you, but I am definitely going to the forest. And then Ram is still trying to convince her, no, it is very dangerous and this. So Sita really gets upset. So she realizes that Ram is just not understanding her point of view. So Sita tells Ram something that really hurts Ram again. She tells him that I know why you are not taking me to the forest. She tells him, if my father Janak Maharaj was here and he saw you behaving like this, scared of protecting me in the forest, he would have thought that he has married his girl to a boy, he has married his daughter to a girl who is dressed as a boy. She's telling like this about Ram. So Ram really gets bewildered, He's like totally hurt, but he doesn't show it on his face. He tells her, you come with me. He takes her to the forest. But Sita knows that she has created a small crack, small scar in the relationship. See, people whom we don't know, if they insult us, it doesn't pain us so much. But if people we love the most, they insult us, it hits the most. Because they know also what our weak point is. Isn't it? They know exactly what to say that hurts you the most. So Sita did that and she really hurt Ram. So she was waiting for an opportunity so that she can make up for what she did. And both Ram and Sita knew this is like an untold scar in their relationship. So she waited for 13 long years for a chance to rectify this mistake. 13 years later, when Shurpanakha comes and this Khar come and these 14,000 soldiers attack Ram and Lakshman, Ram tells Lakshman, take Sita into the cave. So Lakshman is wondering, after 13 years we got our first chance to fight. He's carrying the bow and arrow all this time, he never got to use it. And now finally he got to use it. Ram is telling go to the cave. So Lakshman at that point decides that next time onwards I'll never be younger brother. I'll always be older brother. I can't handle this, instructions. So anyway, Lakshman goes to the cave and Ram single-handedly fights with KRISHNA and 14,000 soldiers. Kills all of them. After the entire war is over, Ram is standing there alone with his bow on the ground. And his entire body, bruises all over, he's bleeding all over. There is dust from the soil on his body, sweat on his body. And in that situation, he's standing with his bow on the ground. And Sita comes running from top. And when Sita sees Ram, she immediately understands what Ram is trying to say. She runs to Ram, embraces him, and she tells him, if my father Janak Maharaj is here today, and he has seen this parakram of yours, he would have married you to as many girls as he had. So now, she hurt him, but she undid that when she got a chance later. Another time, Sita sees Ram taking a vow. So Sita, Ram, Lakshmana are walking in the forest, and they reach this ashram of the sages of the Dandakaranya. So there's a group of sages that are staying together in a big ashram in the forest. And the sages show Ram around the ashram, and after they show Ram around the ashram, they bring Ram to a particular place in the ashram where there's a big heap of bones. So Ram is shocked. How can there be such a heap of bones in the middle of such a pure place? Ram asks them, what is this? The sages of Dandakaranya tell Ram, these are bones of all our sages. And they tell him that these demons, they're coming and constantly harassing us. And randomly they come and attack the sages. Sometimes they just pull away one hand, sometimes they pull away one ear, sometimes they rip the skin. They're really torturing the sages. And these are all bones of all the sages who have died over here, suffering. So when Ram sees that, he feels really bad. And Ram at that point takes a vow. He says he takes a vow that he'll annihilate all the demons and get rid of the forest of all the negative forces. So Sita hears that vow. And Sita, she feels a little bad that Ram has taken such a vow. See, Sita is like divine mother. She is always concerned about all her children, no matter how naughty they are. So in front of Sita, Ram can never kill anybody. So if you study the Ramayana, every time a demon attacks Ram, in front of Sita, he only either cuts off the ears and nose, or he removes one eye. That's all. He never kills the demon in front of Sita. That's why he tells Sita to go to the cave when KRISHNA attacked, so that in front of her, he doesn't have to kill. So Sita, when she sees Ram taking this vow, she doesn't say anything at that point. But at a later point, when they're alone, they're having private time, then she sits with him and she says, I have a concern, I will talk to you. Feedback should never be given in public. Appreciation should be done in public. But criticism and feedback should be done in private. So Sita sits with Lord Ram and she tells him, we are wearing the dress of ascetics. We are supposed to be living the life of ascetics. We are supposed to be living life of sadhus. Why are we carrying the bow and arrow around? If you carry the bow and arrow around, you will feel like using it. So she tells him, let's abandon the bow. Let's completely live the life of ascetics in the forest. And then Sita tells Ram a story. Amazing story. She tells him, many years back there was a sage that lived in the forest. And he was doing great tapasya. And Indra became a little insecure. These sages, growing too much in his tapasya. So Indra comes to the sage and he tells the sage, I have to answer nature's call. Can you please hold this sword for me? He said, I can't keep the sword on the ground because it's a divine sword. Just hold it for me for a few minutes, I'll come back. Indra goes and never comes back. So the sage is holding the sword in his hand. And after some time he's wondering, what do I do with this sword? So he sees a log of wood over there. He goes and hits it and it cuts into half. The sage is amazed by the power of the sword. He goes outside the ashram and he cuts a tree. The entire tree cuts into half with one smash. Then he goes and cuts a tiger. The tiger dies in one smash. he is just amazed by the kind of power that he's holding in his hand. Slowly, he gets so intoxicated with power that he becomes a dacoit. Completely forgets his whole, purpose and goal of life, and he completely becomes a dacoit. Sita tells Ram this story. And she tells him, if you carry the bow and arrow around, this is what will happen. So Ram hears the story, he hears Sita's feedback, and then he sits with her and explains to her. He tells her, see, I'm a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya is a Kshatriya whether he has a position or doesn't have a position. The role of a Kshatriya is to protect the innocent. And I am not carrying this bow and arrow as a decoration. This bow and arrow is for me to protect the innocent from those who are doing atrocities. And he said, wherever I am, no matter what my position is, whether I have a position or don't have a position, I will never abandon Kshatriya Dharma. He says, we have worn the dress of ascetics, but we are not ascetics. We will always remain Kshatriyas, and we cannot stop doing our duties. And after Ram tells her this, then Sita realizes the point what he's trying to make. And then she was able to appreciate it. Now look at this version of Sita. It's a very interesting way of looking at Sita's personality and Sita's mindset, isn't it? In the Ramayana, there is a very interesting personality who comes in, who is Shurpanakha. So Shurpanakha, when she enters the Ramayana, she brings an element in the Ramayana which is known as Hasyaras. So throughout the Ramayana, the entire Ramayana is mostly a Karuna Ras. Karuna Ras means it's a rasa of compassion. It's a rasa of sacrifice, basically. So through the Ramayana, the prominent rasa is Karuna Ras. That's why you'll find throughout the Ramayana everybody is crying. Ram is crying, Sita is crying, Dasharatha is crying, Kaikeyi is crying, Kaushalya is crying, everyone is crying. So when leaders cry, the followers are happy. And when followers cry, leaders are happy. In today's time, you'll find all followers are crying. Those few guys on top are very, very happy, isn't it? But in the Ramayana, it's exactly opposite. All the leaders are crying throughout the Ramayana. And that's why the Praja is happy. That's what Ramaraj is all about, sacrifice of the leaders. So prominently it is Karuna Ras. But in this section where Shurpanakha enters, Valmiki introduces Hasya Ras. So Valmiki, he does a very interesting introduction of Shurpanakha in the Ramayana. So what he does is, he compares Shurpanakha with Lord Ram. The beauty of Lord Ram and the looks of Shurpanakha. And he compares it part by part. He says, Lord Ram, his hair are so soft and delicate, blackish in color, and wavy, so beautiful to look at. Shurpanakha's hair are red, coppery, and standing on end. What we call today as spike hairstyle. Originally Shurpanakha's hairstyle. Red color hair. And then he compares the eyes of Lord Ram. Says Lord Ram's eyes are like lotus petals. So beautiful to look at. So mesmerizing to look at. Shurpanakha's eyes are like sockets. You remove a bulb, the way the socket looks, that's how Shurpanakha's eyes are. Scary looking, You said that Shurpanakha, so Lord Ram, he is slender. His entire waist, you can measure it like this. If you extend your finger like this, that's the waist of Lord Ram. Shurpanakha's waist is like a barrel. And then he's comparing Ram's voice. Ram, whenever he speaks in Bhairav Swara. Bhairav Swara. It's in music, Bhairav Swara is considered to be a very, very beautiful, melodious, the topmost note of music, basically. And Shurpanakha, when she speaks, the description is like when you take a iron needle and you scratch it on a tin, the sound that comes, the screeching sound that comes, that's the voice of Shurpanakha. It is said when you see Lord Ram, you feel like looking at him again and again and again. He's so beautiful and mesmerizing. When you see Shurpanakha, you will not get sleep for many days together. So Valmiki is comparing, Shurpanakha and Ram like this. And when Shurpanakha comes into the Ramayana, she tells Lord Ram that I think we both make a perfect match. You are handsome, I am beautiful. I think we make a perfect match. It is explained at that point when Shurpanakha met Lord Ram, this was her 13th Treta Yuga in her life. She had already lived for 13 Treta Yugas till this point in time. She is like a really old lady. And Ram over here, he is so young. No, Shurpanakha is living a perfect match. What an illusion, isn't it? What a complete illusion. And then Shurpanakha tells Ram that, I want to marry you. Ram realizes that this is a really funny person. And Ram tells Shurpanakha, see, I'm already married. Now my wife Sita is here. But my brother Lakshman, he is alone. I think you should, think about him. So Ram doesn't lie technically. He doesn't say that he's not married. He just says that Lakshman is alone. So Shurpanakha looks at Lakshman. He says, oh, he's also handsome. He jumps. And she goes to him. And she tells him, will you marry me? Lakshman, he understands the hasya rasa that is going on here. Lakshman tells Shurpanakha, see, I am a servant of Ram. I am a servant of Sita. So my life is serving both of them. If you get married to me, you will be my servant and you will be servant of both of them also. Why you want to be servant of servant? So why did you directly marry him only? Shurpanakha says, he is also right. She goes back to Ram. And then, when she realizes that Ram and Lakshman, actually both of them want to marry me. Problem is Sita. Look at her conclusion. Very strange conclusion she makes. She concludes that both of them actually want to marry her, but they are not agreeing because Sita is a problem. So she says, if I eat up Sita, there will be no problem. She jumps to attack Sita. And that's when Ram realizes that you cannot joke around with some people. See, there are some people who are not supposed to joke. Ram is one of them. The only time in the entire Ramayana where Ram does some joke is here. And that also he falls in serious trouble. Isn't it? Krishna is joking all the time. He doesn't fall in any trouble. But Ram jokes once in his life. That's all. He falls in big trouble. Therefore, not everybody is supposed to be humorous. Some people are best meant to be serious. So if the serious people try to become humorous, it's a problem. The humorous people try to become serious, it's a problem. So you understand what your role is and focus on that role. Ram is supposed to be Maryada Purushottam, right? He is not supposed to be doing these joking things, basically. And that's when Ram tells Lakshman, this lady is problematic. Please deal with her. And Lakshman takes out a knife, cuts off the ears and nose of Shurpanakha. Of course, the Ramayana continues. But this point, the introduction of Shurpanakha's character is a very interesting character in the Ramayana. So the name Shurpanakha, Nakha means nails, and Shurpa means the one who has sharp nails. It also means the one who has sharp features. So if you study the Ramayana, Shurpanakha was a person who was very insensitive as a person. And in her insensitive behavior, she didn't know what she was doing many times. So if you study throughout the Ramayana, I'm going to tell you one or two episodes of Shurpanakha's life, where she just doesn't, there are some people who are social misfits, right? They just don't fit into society, social norms basically. So Shurpanakha is one of those people. She just doesn't fit in. And because she doesn't fit in like that, whatever she does is completely stupid. How did she reach Janasthan? There's a story behind that. Ravan was once in the courtroom, and there was a discussion going on, and Shurpanakha's husband, his name was Vidyujit. So Vidyujit was in the court of Ravan, and he spoke something that Ravan didn't like. And when Ravan heard what this Vidyujit spoke and he didn't like it, he directly cut off the head of Vidyujit. Straight away kills his brother-in-law. Then after killing him, goes to Shurpanakha and tells, I'm sorry I killed your husband by mistake. So, because I've killed your husband by mistake, I'm giving you Janasthan as a gift. You become the queen of Janasthan and I'll give you 14,000 soldiers along with it. She says, okay, and comes here. No problem at all, husband died. No problem at all that husband was killed like this. She says it's a good deal, husband died, no problem. So Ravan tells her, you want, you can go and get married to anybody over there. So she came to Janasthan searching for a husband over there, basically, So imagine, so Shurpanakha is already a complete, the way she behaves and deals is a little strange. So when her nose and ears get cut off, and then she eventually reaches where, and this Kardushan 14,000 soldiers get killed, she reaches Ravan. And when she reaches Ravan, Ravan is enjoying his life, he's having a good time. She reaches there with her nose and ears cut off, and she begins to abuse Ravan. If you study that section of the Ramayana, it's amazing. Shurpanakha is speaking the dirtiest of dirty words to Ravan. She says, what a useless king you are. Your sister is disfigured, and you're eating and drinking over here merrily. You have no idea what is going on in your own kingdom. What kind of a king you are. She really abuses him in front of everybody. And Ravan amazingly doesn't say anything to her. He doesn't retaliate. So Shurpanakha is that type of advisor. And of course, Shurpanakha tells Ravan why I went to Janasthan. She completely changes the story. She tells Ravan, I went to Janasthan for you. There was such a beautiful girl named Sita. And I thought the moment I saw her, only you deserve her. And she begins to describe Sita. Completely twists the whole story. And she says, when I was going to talk to Ram about Sita for you, he cut my ears and nose. Completely changes the story. Shurpanakha is like a journalist of today. Story is something else, they'll make something else out of it. You will never know what the fact is. If you trust Shurpanakha, you are in big trouble. You will never get facts. So today, reading newspaper is literally like hearing news from Shurpanakha's mouth. How much can you trust? How much is fact and how much is twisted, we don't know, basically. So this is Shurpanakha's character in the Ramayana. So and the most amazing thing about the whole Ramayana is that Ravan blindly believes Shurpanakha. That's the funniest part. And the Vibhishan, who actually gives him good advice, he kicks him out. Look at this. So Vibhishan is also speaking frank to Ravan, but he's not insulting Ravan. He is very, very respectful to him. He is very kind to him. He is very, very cordial to him, but he gives him good advice. And Shurpanakha is disrespectful to him, abusing him, but she gives him bad advice. And he takes this seriously and he kicks Vibhishan out. So sometimes in this world, people take those who are harsh more seriously than those who are kinder. Those who present as if they are very confident, then someone who is seeming to be docile and weak, basically. So it's very much the way the modern world works, right? So if somebody goes to a boss and tells him full, report, very confidently, absolutely wrong statistics and wrong numbers, but full confidence, that fellow will have more weight than that fellow. Then somebody is presenting it humbly and with, proper facts. Unfortunately, this is Lanka. So what we are going through in our own lives is the story of Lanka repeating. Yeah. So Ravan name changes, Shurpanakha name changes, and Vibhishan name changes. But the story is still same only. So Ramayana is not an age-old story. It's a very, very much a current story that is happening in all our lives, basically. So when we study the characters of the Ramayana in this way, every single character of the Ramayana has so much direct relevance to our own lives. There is so much parallels to our own story, to our own situations of life. And that is why when you study the Ramayana in this way, the scripture becomes alive. The scripture comes to life. So what I try to do in my writing and in my talks is I try to present the scriptures in a way that is immediately relevant to a common man, to a modern person. Whether you are a devotee or not a devotee doesn't matter. What it matters is that you have to learn from these epics, from these scriptures, and absorb lessons that you can apply in your personal lives. In today's world, people read so many of these self-help books, right? And many of these self-help books essentially are derivations from scriptures only. The concepts, modern psychologist concepts, are all from the ancient scriptures only. But unfortunately, today it is presented in a very interesting way, and therefore people give so much weight to these books. So what I am trying to do is I am trying to present all the books, my books, in such a way that it can have immediate relevance to your lives. It can have a very powerful impact in the way you think and the way you look at these scriptures. So I'm going to now give a small introduction to some of my books to all of you. What has happened is nowadays the number of books are so many that people lose idea of what is there in which book. So what I find usually is that after my talk, people go to the bookstore and they're trying to figure out which book to take. So what I started doing nowadays is that I give a small introduction to all my books before my talk ends, so that you can be more informed on what is the content of these books and take a decision on what you want to buy based on the content of the books, right? So let me introduce you to some of my most important and books that I really love the most. Here is my magnum opus. This is called Ramayana, the Game of Life. I'm sure many of you have heard of it or have it also. This series is 6 books that contain the entire Ramayana in 6 volumes. So this series, I call it as Ramayana, the Game of Life, because this series has the entire Ramayana, but with lessons that you can apply in your life. Exactly the same style that I've been speaking. Every book is one kand of the Ramayana. Ramayana has 6 kands, and each book is one kand of the Ramayana. And each book contains at least 200 to 300 life lessons that you can learn from the story of the Ramayana. So if you read this entire series, you're going to look at Ramayana in a totally different light. And that's what this series is about. So this series has been a best-selling series in India. Thousands of people have been reading this series. This is a book called Stories of Ganesh. So, there was a time when we used to be called for these Ganesh Pandals every year, during Ganesh Chaturthi. And whenever we would speak in Ganesh Pandals, we would tell only 2 stories. Story of Vyasadeva writing Mahabharata with Ganesh's help, and then the one story of Shiva chopping off Ganesh's head. And I got fed up at some point. I said, what is this? I only know 2 stories of Ganesh in my whole life, Then I started doing research. This book has at least 50 stories about Ganesh that you can learn from, and you can appreciate this personality who is Bhakti-Vinod Nashar. This book is a book called Ancient Wisdom to Elevate the Mind. This book has 50 stories from the epics of India, and each story ends with a very beautiful message that you can apply in your life. This book is one of my favorite books. This is called 5.5 Ways to Lasting Relationship. This book has 6 love stories from our scriptures, and each story talks about how people fall in love, but more importantly, how they stay in love for the rest of their lives. In today's world, where there is love at first sight and divorce at first fight, very good book to have. And I in fact recommend this book to every person who is already married, who's about to get married, and who's thinking of getting married. It's a lifesaver, basically. This is one of my latest books. It is called Naam Ramayana. This book is a very, very unique book. It has the entire Ramayana in 108 verses. There is a great Acharya named Lakshmanacharya who has written the whole Ramayana through names of Lord Ram, 108 names of Lord Ram. So this is a beautiful book that has meditations on different holy names of Lord Ram through the story of the Ramayana. So tomorrow I'm going to speak based on this book. So if you are attending tomorrow's session, it will be based on this book. And it's a very beautiful meditation. So every 2 pages have a new story of Lord Ram, a new meditation on one of the holy names of Lord Ram, and one of the divine qualities of Ram. That's how this book is. And I have four other books. This one is my topmost favorite book, all-time favorite. This is probably the best book I have written and best book I will ever write in my life. It's called Open-Eyed Meditations. This book has 64 chapters in it. Each chapter talks about one aspect of life seen through the lens of Ramayana and Mahabharata. So whatever problems you face in life, whatever life situations you face, the solutions of that is there in this book through stories from Ramayana and Mahabharata. So a lot of people use this book as a guidebook. I know hundreds of devotees who keep this book in their bedside. And whenever they come across any situation in life where they are confused, they just pick up this book and read one chapter in this book, and it gives them solid wisdom and ideas. So this is called Open-Eyed Meditations. And then there are many kids' books I have written. This is one of the latest. It's called 100 Vedic Women. So in this, I have, so most of the people today, they say that the Vedic scriptures don't talk about women at all. It's all about men. This is my answer to that. Not one, not two, 100 Vedic women. And it's a fully illustrated book, very beautiful illustrations that teaches about 100 very powerful women. And this book is called Bhagavad Gita for Children. So I've written the entire Bhagavad Gita, not all the verses, but key verses of Gita explained through stories the children can understand and learn lessons from. And there are a few other books of children. This is a book called Little Krishna. This has some unheard stories of Krishna's life through illustrations. And similarly, I have illustrated Ramayana for children, illustrated Panchatantra for children, and an illustrated Mahabharata for children. So all these books are there, available for all of you to have a look and purchase. We have very few copies of them. I highly recommend all of you all to take some vows today. And I'm telling you why I'm telling you this, for a reason. Many kids today, from those who are in this generation, they have no idea about what our scriptures are. They have no idea about our stories, no idea about our scriptures. It is very good to introduce these scriptures through very simple stories, which is what I'm trying to do. Whenever all of you go for any marriages, birthday parties, any kind of occasions, please take a vow that you will only gift books. Don't give plastic items and toys and soft toys and any of these things. I tell you why. Because all these gift items that you give, they will get destroyed in a year or two at max. But books will remain for a lifetime. In fact, there is a research that says one book remains for 500 years. So practically 5 generations can read one book. So if you're giving one book as a gift to somebody, that person you're giving to may not read it. But if it remains in the library of that person, somebody will read it. And somebody will benefit from it. And that's the power of the written word. So my recommendation to all of you all is that please get a set of all these books. These are powerful investments that you can for your own readings, but also for the next generation. I really thank all of you all very much for your patient listening and for enthusiastically coming on a weekday evening in the cold of Toronto and giving me an opportunity to serve all of you all. Very grateful and honored to be with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shubhavilas Prabhu. So we'll take a few questions from the floor. If there's any questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for being here. I saw you first time on Hare Krishna TV last year when he was presenting the Ramayana story of that. Thank you so much for that. I loved it. And I was thinking that how can I meet you? Thank you to Krishna and to Prabhupada and to Krishna Prabhu and all of you who are here. Thank you so much. The question, Prabhuji, I have 2-3 questions, but I will just keep it short due to the time. Sorry, I'm going to speak in Hindi now. रामायण के अंदर हम सब लोग देखते हैं कि वानर सेना है. जो मैंने पढ़ा, जो सुना, देखा है, तो क्या वो सच में वानर सेना नहीं थी? क्या उनने ड्रेसअप किया था ऐसा? क्योंकि उसमें भी ऐसा आता है, क्योंकि आप उसके स्कॉलर हैं बहुत बड़े, तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा जानना चाहता हूँ, थोड़ा सा, क्योंकि मैंने पढ़ा उसके अंदर और सुना भी है कि वो वानर सेना नहीं थी. उन्होंने बाद में अपना ड्रेसअप, अपनी पूंछ निकाली, बाकी सब सामान निकाला. एक तो ये था, दूसरा आपने जो स्टोरी बता रहे थे उसके अंदर आपने कुछ कांड बताए थे ऐसे, जिसके अंदर जैसे डेजिग्नेटेड वन थे जिसके अंदर सिर्फ राक्षस को मिले हुए थे, वो जहाँ पे राम भगवान जा रहे थे बार बार उनका वध करने के लिए अलग अलग जगह अपने 14 साल की यात्रा करने। तो उसके अंदर थोड़ा सा आप बता सकते हैं बाकियों को भी? तो आई एम मोर इंटरेस्टेड इन दीज टू थिंग्स। दैट्स इट फ्रॉम मी। थैंक यू सो मच। हरे कृष्णा।
Yeah, I'll speak in English. So, thank you for your questions. First of all, the first question, whether the Vanaras were dressed up as Vanaras or whether they were actually Vanaras, I have no idea from where you found that source. I have no idea where you saw that they dressed up as Vanaras. You have any source for it?
There was some podcast and online they were referring it from the scriptures only, that they are saying when the war was ended and they were taking off their dresses, even their tails as well. So that's what I just said.
I would definitely not agree to it, because in all my reading and in all my study, I have never come across anything like this. I definitely don't agree to it, and I highly recommend you to be careful of who you hear podcast from, because there are many people who are trying to speak on the scriptures nowadays, but a lot of them have no personal research of their own, nor have they any guru parampara that they connected with. So it's it's very highly not recommended to hear podcasts unless you hear it from a source that is from a bona fide parampara. That would be my recommendation. As far as my study goes, the Vanaras, they live in a planet known as Kimpurushloka. So Kimpurushloka is a very specific planet in which the Vanaras reside, in the same form in which they are, that we know them of, basically. Now obviously, Valmiki Ramayana is a very human book. So the way Valmiki writes the Ramayana, he does not bring in any divine elements into the Ramayana. He writes it in a very human way, basically. So there is minimal mystical elements to it. So there are many things that there is no description. There is no description of many things, basically. So based on that, a lot of people think that these Vanaras don't exist, or it's not a species like that. But the way we study our scriptures is by something known as cross-referencing. Cross-referencing means, if I am studying Ramayana and there are some things that I don't understand in the Ramayana, I go to some other Puranas to understand it. So I go to different sources of the Vedic scriptures only to understand the concepts, basically. So you will find descriptions of Kimpurushloka in many other scriptures. It may not be in the Valmiki Ramayana directly, but there is a description. If you study Brihad Bhagavatam, very clear descriptions are there of Kimpurushloka, and many other scriptures if you study, Puranic scriptures also. And there is stories of Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata also the description of Hanumanji. There is a description of the tale of Hanumanji also in the Mahabharata. So like that, there are, by cross-referencing you get to know a lot of things, basically. And in any of my cross-referencing studies, I have not come across this idea that they were dressed up. Yes, there is a reference of the Vanaras being able to change their form at will. So when Sugriva meets Lord Ram, he does not go as a Vanar, he disguises himself as a human being and goes. That reference is there. So if you take that as changing of costume, that's a wrong reference. It is actually changing of form. It's very different from changing of costume, right? So that is the reference that I can give you for what you have your doubt. And the second question is
about the calms when.
Okay. So I'm trying to understand your question. So basically, what you're trying to say is that in the forest there are designated sections where the sages live and where demons live.
Yeah, because they have been granted to live on these places only when this Yug come and when Ram come.
Yeah. So basically, the forest has all the three. The forest has animals, the forest has demons, and the forest has sages also. Yes, it's an ecosystem where they don't interfere with each other, basically. Janasthan is considered to be an outpost of Ravana. So Lanka is way down in the south, but way in the interior of the landmass, Ravana has an outpost where his demons are stationed, basically, so that people don't enter into Lanka. So Ravan, I mean, every king has securities like that, you know. Janasthan is supposed to be like an outpost for Lanka. That's what my understanding is. So yes, the ecosystem of the forest is such that the sages and demons live in different areas, but the demons attack the sages sometimes. They go into their territories and attack. The sages obviously don't interfere in anybody else's life, but the demons, you know, attack.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I have another question. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, what is the difference between Valmiki Ramayana and Tulsidas Ramcharitramanas?
Valmiki is the original Ramayana. He is the first author to the Ramayana. So he will always be the first author. So anytime you want to look at a primary reference of Ramayana, the primary source of Ramayana, it is always Valmiki. Tulsidas ji got inspired by Valmiki Ramayana and wrote Ramcharitramanas in his own language, which is Awadhi, for the people who don't understand Sanskrit. And the mood in which Valmiki writes Ramayana is in a very human mood. He is a contemporary of Lord Ram and he is a guru of Lord Ram. So when he writes Ramayana, he writes in a very human perspective. In Valmiki Ramayana, Ram is not God. He is not addressed as God at all. He is a human being. Because Valmiki is writing in the mood of the avatar. The mood of Lord Ram is that he is Maryada Purushottam. He has come to teach us what it means to be an ideal human being. So the entire Valmiki Ramayana is written in the perspective of what it means to be an ideal human being. So there will be human struggles, there is no miracles, there is no mysticism involved in it. It's a human perspective. But Tulsidas ji, when he writes Ramayana, he is writing as a son of Mother Sita. He is not writing as a contemporary of Ram, or he is not writing as a guru of Ram. He is writing as a child of Ram and Sita. So when he writes Ramayana, he writes it in a very devotional way. For him, Ram is the Supreme Lord, worshipable father, Sita is his worshipable mother. That's the mood in which he writes. So you'll find Tulsidas ji's Ramayana, the mood only is totally different. So that's the main differences between the two.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I'm a very big fan of yours, including my elder daughter who is unfortunately not able to make it today. So she has read the complete Game of Life and she is very devoted to that book. So I have two questions today. One is in the Ramayana and other is kind of related to Ramayana. So the first question is, I've heard that it's about Rameshwaram, where Rama is said to have worshipped Lord Shiva. So Rama is incarnation of Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how do we understand that he worshipped Shiva? Because most of the Shivaites say that since Rama worshipped Shiva, Shiva is great. So I would like to understand how do we, as Krishna devotees, how do we take it?
Whenever a Kshatriya goes for war, they always worship Lord Shiva before going for war. Because Lord Shiva is in charge for modern destruction, basically. So when a Kshatriya is going to embark in a destructive adventure, and after a Kshatriya has finished a war, these are two times a Kshatriya always worships Lord Shiva, because he's in charge for that particular aspect. So it's a Kshatriya dharma, basically. So Lord Ram worships Lord Shiva from that perspective. And also from another perspective, see, the point is, these great personalities, they worship each other, they respect each other a lot. We are the people who have problems. They have no problem between each other. They are all fine. Ram will worship Shiva, Shiva will worship Ram, they are all doing well. We are the ones who are taking sides and saying, what is worshipping? That's not how it works. Vedic culture is about inclusivity. It is not about exclusivity. Christian faith is about inclusive. Means one person means nobody else. It doesn't work like that in Vedic culture. It's always going to be inclusive. So you will find everyone being a part of the same family. So there is a father, there is a mother, but there is also uncle and aunt. Uncle and aunt are equally worshipped, equally respected. So we have to learn to get used to this whole idea of respecting multiple personalities and worshipping multiple personalities. And from our point of view, worshipping Lord Shiva is perfectly bona fide because Shiva is the greatest of Vaishnavas. He is the first expansion of Sankarshan. So even from a Tattva point of view, worshipping Shambhu is not a not wrong at all.
Thank you, Prabhu. My next question is kind of related to Ramayana, but not completely from Ramayana. So we know these, Ram was born to Dasharath and Kaushalya, of course through the nectar that was given from the yajna. Whereas Mother Sita, she was not born to Janaka and his wife. So she was taken from the earth, but they took her as their daughter. Similarly, if we see, Krishna was born to Vasudeva and Devaki, whereas Radha, she was taken from, she was not born to her parents. Right? And I've also heard that Andal in the down south, she's also not born to the Acharya. And I think Padmavati Tayar also has a similar story. So I understand that they are divine, women divine forces, but still they are all a part of Supreme Krishna. Krishna's internal potency is Radha. So while he was born from the so-called, the womb of his parents, but the mother force, the female force is not born. So how is that?
As far as I understand, I'll give my thoughts. My understanding is that the divine energy of the Lord will never be connected to anybody except the Lord. You will never find the source of the divine energy at all. It will always be vague. So nobody can ever point out that this person belongs to this family or it will be always kept vague. That's my understanding. So whenever you find divine energy being born, there will always be an element of mysticism around it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for enlightening us today with all this information about Ramayana. And actually, I do realize how much you said we don't know about Ramayana. I have one question that I had was, actually I have two questions. First one is about the teachings that Mother Sita gave when she was convincing Lord Ram about she needs to go with him in the forest. So that teachings, during my youth, we were taught because she teaches about the guidelines that the lady should follow when we are serving the husband. So when I was learning that during my teenage, for me I felt sometimes some of the points were not practical. So nowadays, when we have to teach that to the younger generation, could you please elaborate on those, like how can we make it more practical? And the other point also is we're talking about all the women, strong women in characters in the Ramayana. When we are looking at Srila Prabhupada's purpose, some of the like in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 1, he talks about women not being intelligent. And also when we're reading about the teachings of Kunti, when she's speaking, she's talking about how women are unintelligent. So when we look at those, and we look at the characters that you're presenting, like how can we strengthen that information when we're preaching to others outside? Sorry, but my voice is gone. I hope you were able to get
I understand. Thank you for your questions. Questions are quite deep. The first question about how do you explain to modern, girls and women about this whole idea of, what Sita learned from her parents. It's very simple. The principles are always going to be the same. Any marriage, any relationship is based on respect. So when a girl does not respect her husband, or the man does not respect his wife, the relationship is going to be a chaos. It has to be based on respect. So when Sita is being given those lessons to, by Janak to respect Ram, you think Ram is not given those lessons by Dasharath and Kaushalya to respect Sita? It's both ways. So, see, for someone to be a Sita to Ram, that person has to be a Ram first. So you tell a girl you have to be like Sita to Ram. The first thing is that boy should be Ram. Isn't it? So both the sides there has to be effort. And only when both the sides are ready to respect one another, ready to serve one another, and ready to actually go out of the way to take care of one another, will the relationship work. So if you only explain to the girls that you have to be dharmacharini and all that, but don't do any explanation to the boys, you are leading to a chaos. It's leading to a very chaotic situation. So I personally feel that as much education as girls need to have, that much, if not more, boys need to be educated, basically. That is why Vedic education has to be complete, because from both sides. That is my perspective as far as what we teach our kids. So we have to teach our kids these principles based on our scriptures, but we have to teach them in the context in which they understand it. Not in a very traditional way which appears derogatory towards women, or it appears one-sided, basically. That's what my opinion would be. Because as far as my study goes of Ram, Sita and all of these personalities, they are far, far, far more outgoing in their thinking and more modern in their approach and thinking than people today, actually. And that's why they are so great, basically. And that's why their relationships are so powerful. And as far as your second question is concerned about what are the women being less intelligent, and whatever Prabhupada's purports are, I'll explain to you my understanding of that. There are many types of intelligences. There is logical intelligence and there is rational intelligence. And then there is emotional intelligence. Women are strong in emotional intelligence aspect. Their rational intelligence, logical intelligence may not exactly be the strongest compared to men, basically. Men are strong as far as logical intelligence and rational intelligence is concerned, but they are very weak as far as emotional intelligence is concerned. To study the scriptures, you need logical intelligence, rational intelligence more. Emotional intelligence doesn't help in studying the scriptures. But to live life, to handle calamities, to handle chaos, to handle relationships, to handle so many other things in life, emotional intelligence is more powerful than logical and rational intelligence. So when Prabhupada is saying women are less intelligent than men, he is specifically talking about one aspect of life. He is not talking about complete life. Right? As far as study of scriptures is concerned, if you study Kunti Maharani's prayers also, she is only talking about that aspect. She is talking about interpretation of scriptures. She is talking about study of scriptures. So if you actually study from a logical point of view, if you study, historically, scholarship is more in men than women, isn't it? There are more, like from an academic point of view also, even from Vedic academic point of view, the interpretation and the ability to analyze of men is always higher than women in terms of the scriptural analysis. But as far as application is concerned, as far as devotion is concerned, anytime women are way, way, way higher, because they have emotional intelligence which is needed for the application of that study. So theoretically, men are first class in giving lectures. But when they get off the Vyasasana, they can't follow what they are speaking. Women hear it properly and they go on first class, they follow it. Am I right or wrong? Isn't it? That's my understanding. So both are true in one sense. That's how balance is.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like you said, there are many unknown facts which we may not be knowing. So one of that fact which you just mentioned was Shubhavilas had done 13 Treta Yuga. So how do we understand that she has done 13 Chatur Yuga cycle? So she doesn't die during the dissolution or of one full Yuga. How do we understand that?
This is a reference that I have from H.G.Shubhavilas. This is a Puranic reference, basically. So now the Puranas have their own way of accounting for stuff, basically. Now, we all know that these demons live much longer than most other people, basically. So that's one way of looking at it. And also these people got so many boons from Ramaji. So that boons also helps, for a longer life. That's my understanding. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in Ramayana, we know that Ravana was a Mahapandit, right? He knew everything. So when Ravana knew everything, who Ram is, was there a reason that Ram continued to do all these demon acts right till the end? Which is something it always makes us think why he really did what he did, knowing that he was so intelligent, he was Mahapandit, he was learned. Just curious to know why he didn't.
If we get an answer to this question, a lot of our stupidity will be explained. We ourselves do some really stupid things, right? In spite of knowing everything. Unfortunately, the way human intelligence works is, in spite of you knowing everything, you still can't act on some things. You still, do the stupid things. It is said Ravan had 10 heads, right? So 10 heads indicated 10 different types of intelligences. So 9 of his 10 heads told him, don't kidnap Sita. The original first head did agree. And he kidnapped. 9 heads told him, don't do it. The original head was corrupt, basically. And therefore he did it. So many times when we are obsessed about something, and when we are really obsessed about it, we stop being logical. And many people who buy cars, do you think they have logic behind buying a car? It's simply an obsession. I just want to get this car, that's all. They don't look at their financial situation, they don't look at their practical realities, they jump into it and then they repent. Right? Same thing in buying a house, same thing in getting married to a particular person, same thing in so many decisions that we take in life. It's all certain just an obsessive thought that we have which we act on, basically. Which is why we need a guidance from someone who can actually give us a neutral opinion on many important decisions that we have to take in life. Because when we are in it, we can't think logically. Because we are too close to the problem to analyze it well. So we need someone who is far away from it, who can look at it from a neutral perspective and give us, opinions. That's why kings always had advisors, always had ministers who would give them opinions. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. So last question here.
In some versions of the Ramayana, they talk about the Sita being like a duplicate Sita, and the original Sita went into the fire. What's your take on that?
Yeah, this is a reference from the Durma Purana. So Durma Purana mentions that Lord Ram handed over the original Sita to fire god, and the fire god created a duplicate Sita whom Ravan kidnapped, which is very much in consistence with what Ramayana says also, because eventually when the Agni Pariksha happens, the duplicate Sita goes back into the fire and the original Sita comes back. There is actually a story connected to that which is in the Sthala Purana of Tirupati Balaji, basically. So it says that there was a lady named Vedavati whom Ravan was going to kidnap and harass her. So Vedavati, Hari Bol, baby, what's your name? Your mother is asking a question, na? I'm answering her. You sit quietly, okay? Let her hear nicely. Then you can do whatever you want. So there was a story of Vedavati whom Ravan was harassing. So Ravan wanted to kidnap her, but Vedavati wanted to marry Lord Vishnu as a husband, and she was like really doing tapasya for that. So Ravan saw her and he touched her. He pulled her hair to kidnap her. So Vedavati chopped off her head or her hair, and Ravan only left his hair in his hand. And Vedavati said, because you touched me, I cannot marry Vishnu in this life. So I am ending my life. In my next life, I will come back and I will destroy you. So Vedavati, she self-immolated herself. And it's explained she went to Agni. And when Sita entered into the Agni, Vedavati comes out as duplicate Sita. And she becomes the cause of Ravan's destruction. And after Ravan is destroyed, Ram creates this whole Agni Pariksha thing, and Sita goes back into fire, and the original Sita comes out. So that's the context.
Haribol. So that's the conclusion. What an amazing class. So devotees, that's a wrap of the program. I'd like to call upon His Grace Ainda Prabhu to give some closing remarks.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for such an amazing class. On behalf of the Iskcon Brampton congregation, I'd like to thank you so much for giving us your association. Please keep coming. We hope to see you again and again. It's so nice to hear the principles, the way you explain to them in such a relatable and easy to understand. Like for me, when you mentioned about those three queens and the three mindset and how you can look at the big picture, it's easy to understand. So, and also you said all these small wisdom, you have it in your book, so I hope everybody will take these books and read from them. And again, thank you so much for coming here today, and we hope to see you again and again. Big round of applause.
Hare Krishna everyone. So next part of the program is Prashadam, but Hari Prabhuji will be here. If anybody wants to buy books, you want to take a look, let's have Prashadam together. Thank you. Hare Krishna.